Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report. Coming up here on today's show, we're going to talk about free agent cornerback Marcus Peters. I recently saw an article released by a new company. My guy, shout out to Graphk Raider, has started. It's called Planet Raiders, and it's an article written by Wasted Talent predicting that the Las Vegas Raiders are going to sign Marcus Peters. So coming up here on today's show is going to be my reaction to the Raiders potentially signing Peters. My job as a host here, and one of the biggest reasons why we started this YouTube channel, was because it's easy to talk about news. It's easy to talk about rumors, but also when there is a content creator or other content creators out there, or people where you get information from, it's good to know, are they a reliable source, or is it a source that you continue to go to? And at the end of the day, these are my friends, and I kind of want to talk a little bit about the stuff that they're writing about. So, before we get into all of this, if you're looking for free Raiders videos every single day, subscribe, turn on those notifications. We put out a video every day on this channel for the last 3 years. So let's talk about Peters here potentially going to the silver and black. The Raiders should sign Marcus Peters according to Planet Raiders, and the prediction was he's going to sign a, in quotes, short-term deal. As it stands right now, according to Over the Cap, the Las Vegas Raiders have $2.4 million left in salary cap space. When I look at that number, I think, they got 12 picks in the draft. You still need essentially 15 more players, I believe, to fill out your roster from a 90-man standpoint. And then you're going to have to cut down a little bit. So you're probably going to have to move on from some extra players. We know that's going to happen. So if the Raiders were to sign a player like Peters, they would have to move a little bit of money around. In terms of, does it make sense for Ziegler? Does it make sense for Josh McDaniels to bring in the 30-year-old cornerback? This is what Planet Raiders had to say on making the move. His experience and leadership would be valuable additions to any team, and his ability to read and react to the quarterback can help him make plays on the ball, even if he's lost a step in terms of pure athleticism. As a former high-end starting cornerback, Marcus Peters is a proven veteran who can certainly make an immediate impact for any team in need of secondary help. While there are some concerns about his recent performance and injury history, Peters has shown that he has still the ability to be a playmaker on the back end. Of course, any team interested in signing Peters will need to weigh the potential risk and rewards of bringing him on board. He may not be the same player he once was, and there is always the chance that further injuries or decline in performance could limit his effectiveness. If you want to read even more about the article, you can go check it out at Planet Raiders on Google or any kind of place, Twitter. You guys know where to find those dudes. All right, so let me know down in the comments right now. Do you want the Raiders to sign Marcus Peters? Give me an S for sign or type P for pass. Is corner a need for the silver and black? No doubt about it. And you know what? We're going to make this the pinned comment on today's show. So you're about to get hit with a YouTube ad break. Scroll on down, every single person, type S for sign or P for pass. My answer to this is yes, but you can type that sign. There's a huge but, and I cannot lie. But only if the Raiders miss on corner during the draft and if it's on a team-friendly deal. So I'm not saying right now, hey, Marcus Peters, come on down. I want you to be a new cornerback on the silver and black. Nah, that's not what I want. If the Raiders go into the draft and they have a plan, Dave Ziegler, Josh McDaniels, let's say, hey, I'm trying to get 2 cornerbacks out of the top 100 players on my list. If you miss on that entirely, that's when you can start looking at free agency and at a player like Peters. On top of that, I'm not going to give him the deal that he probably wants. No, that's not what I'm going to do. You're going to take a team-friendly deal, and you're going to come play with the Raiders. That's the only way you're suiting up. That's the only way you're repping that shield this upcoming season. And the other reason why I say that is because this year's draft is loaded with cornerback talent. What I sat down, and I've started to sit down with Tom, and I've talked about a lot of these draft prospects with him, and for me, it's kind of a perfect number. I got 15 corners in my top 100. If there's 15 cornerbacks in the top 100 and the Raiders have 4 picks as it stands right now, in that top 100, you got pick 7, pick 38, pick 70, and then, yes, exactly at 100. If you can't get at least 1 or 2 top corners, then that's where the opportunity arises of, okay, can I start looking back into free agency and going out and getting a veteran? Because to me, Chris Gonzalez, Witherspoon, Porter, Banks, Those are, I'll make a bet, locked and loaded first-round picks. Then Kelly Ringo might go in round 1 because of his athletic ability, but it wouldn't surprise me if he went in round 2. So if you could get a Ringo at 38, cool, let's do it. But then there's Emmanuel Forbes. Love him. DJ Turner is my number 7 ranked corner. And then it's a lot of players that my rankings, like Clark Phillips, all the way down to Corey Trice, you're looking at guys ranked from like 60 to 100. This cornerback class is unbelievably deep. And if you can get 2 out of these top 15 players right here, I think that's going to set you up really, really well in the future. On top of that, when you look at the Raiders' current cornerback depth, I like Nate Hobbs. He is a premier corner. I'm hoping he's better in year 3. Duke Shelley. People are sleeping on him. Stop sleeping on him. I get he's undersized. Dude was a baller last season. One of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, statistically, when you look at it, the back half of the season. David Long Jr., another press man corner, and that's, to me, what this team is trying to do. I see 4 corners that I rely on. Shelley, Hobbs, Long Jr., Amik Robertson. But we know it's a long season. And you need another 2 or 3 corners. And if Marcus Peters can be that dude that helps out some of those younger guys, I'm on board with it. But Peters also has to realize you're not the guy that you were at one point in your career. He also has to realize that the Raiders, they're trying to build a team. And when you're trying to build a team and you got $32 million in dead cap, sometimes you got to be willing to take a little bit of a team-friendly deal. So from a career standpoint, this is what Marcus Peters has done throughout his entire career. In 2015 was an absolute monster, and I remember this rookie season with the Kansas City Chiefs. 26 PBUs, 8 interceptions, and then it slowly but surely started to dwindle down. I'll also say that Peters has been a player that kind of is go for broke, right? In baseball terms, he's going to hit a home run or he's going to strike out. He's going to get really close, always go for the interception, go for the big play, but sometimes it's going to result in getting burned. And that's how he's played his career, and he's had a very successful career in doing that. However, though, in 2021, tore his ACL right before the Raiders were getting actually ready to play the Ravens on Monday Night Football. Then, last season, also had a little bit of a down year in terms of overall production from being able to turn over the football, especially at PBUs and INTs. From a tackling standpoint, also a little bit of a down season. But if there's one thing that I will always respect about Peters, even though he's getting up there in age and he's clearly lost his step, he's just a smart football player. And the idea of if you want to be able to force more turnovers, that's what Peters brings to the table. Like 4 forced fumbles in 2020, 2 last season. Peters will get more turnovers for this team, and the Raiders have struggled being able to force turnovers, especially in the secondary. So if we're all sitting up here, I know Patrick B said, I want him for $3 million. Here's what Spotrac values him at, $9.8 million. PFF projected him to get about $7 million per year. So knowing that he's about 30 years old, knowing that in 2021 he tore his ACL, but also knowing that there's some upside there and knowing that, hey, this guy, he grew up a Raiders fan. I want to know right now, from all that market value, from the people that watch this show all the time, I always tell you the just win babies. Well, now here's your opportunity. How many just win babies on the Las Vegas Raiders signing Marcus Peters? If you think there is a 0% chance that it happens, you type 0. If you think that there's a 1% or one just win baby is 25%, 2 just win babies, 50%. 3 just win babies, 75% chance of happening. 4 just win babies, it is 100% chance of it happening. I'm going to give you my answer on how many just win babies for the Raiders signing Marcus Peters. But before I do all of that, I do want to talk about this awesome deal that we have with our awesome draft hats here. If you haven't already, take advantage of this deal. It's chatsports.com/Raiders draft. You can get a curve brim, you can get a snapback, the fitted hat. All of that is going to be available to you at chatsports.com/Raiders draft. We're going to put the links for you guys in the comments and in the description of today's video. Bottom line, if the Raiders missed on the draft, I don't know, maybe you can go out and get Marcus Peters then, or you just get yourself a nice little draft hat. Huge shout out to our sponsor here for being able to provide some awesome hats for Raider Nation. So Marcus Peters to the Raiders. How many just win babies is it? I'm going to give this one only one just win, baby, because I don't think that it's a 0% chance of happening. I do think it's a 0% chance of happening before the 2023 NFL Draft. However, we have seen the Raiders this offseason, and I think if you would have asked a lot of Raider fans back on March 13th when free agency essentially opened up and it was, you got $43.7 million, where do you think the Raiders are going to go, offense or defense? I think a lot of Raider fans would have said they're going to spend more money on the defensive side of the football. That's not even close to being the truth. I hope and I pray that this Raiders organization, and I hope and I pray that Ziegler and McDaniels really try to address the defensive side of the football, and they go defense heavy in the draft. But I can't confidently sit up here and say that that's what they're going to do. I don't know. I don't know if that's what they do. What if they just continue to try to build the offensive side of the football because that's the side of the football Josh McDaniels knows the best? And because of that, if the Raiders don't get premier corners in the draft, that's when Marcus Peters becomes a little bit more of a possibility. To me, though, the only way that he's signing with the Raiders is on that team-friendly deal, and as if you miss on the cornerback in the draft. But, and I'm a sucker for this, and I'll admit, I'm a big, I want dudes who love football. And I'm a little bit old school in that style of thinking. But at the end of the day, man, if you're making millions of dollars to play football, you should carry that with a lot of pride. Are they putting their bodies on the line? Absolutely. But I know a lot of other people in other careers that they put their body on the lines as well, right? So to me, when I see a quote like this, and Graphk has told me this before, but this was also featured in the Planet Raiders article, and Graphk said that he spoke to Marcus Peters at the Pro Bowl, and he made it clear that he wants to play for his childhood team, the Las Vegas Raiders. So to me, I hear childhood team. I hear, okay, when I hear childhood team, I legitimately think, I'm going to play at a cheaper deal, and I'm going to be somebody who shows up to work every single day, puts in that extra time, because wearing an NFL jersey, I'm sure, has got to be an incredible feeling. Putting on shoulder pads, putting on that helmet for whatever team you play for, it's got to be an incredible feeling. However, if you grew up watching a team and you grew up rooting for the Raiders, and you get to wear that jersey and potentially finish your career with that team, man, I would imagine that's just got to add a whole extra element of, I can't wait to freaking get to work today. With all that being said, I hear childhood team. I also think I'd be willing to take a little bit of a pay cut. I wouldn't offer Marcus Peters anything over $5 million per year. I know what PFF thought. I know what Spotrac thought. But you go back and you look at a lot of the videos that I have made around certain free agents, around certain topics. PFF and Spotrac have been grossly off in terms of overpay. A lot of the deals that you've seen this offseason have been much, much lower. And because of that, I'm going to offer Marcus Peters a little bit less. The Raiders need to take Peters on a team-friendly deal, and if he's not willing to do that, then I'm sorry, he doesn't want to be a Raider bad enough. And I'm not saying that that's a Marcus Peters problem. I'm saying it's a combination of the way that the Raiders are handing out contracts this season, combined with Peters' desire to be on this team. That's how this math equation works. That's what that take means. Because you also look at the numbers here from Peters from a coverage stat standpoint. 64.3% completion percentage against, 711 yards. This is in 13 games. He allowed 7 touchdowns and a quarterback rating of 113.7. The other reason why I'm offering him less than $5 million per year is because he's coming off a career worst year in terms of passer rating allowed. And it's actually really all not that close. The last time he allowed a worse passer rating was his rookie season. But also he's missed 21 games the last 2 years. He missed 17 in 2021 with that ACL injury. And he's still a premier athlete. Nobody's really going to dispute that. But you get closer to 30 years old. Father Time is undefeated. You combine coming off arguably his worst season ever as a pro with an ACL injury in 2021, missed a few games last season. You add all of that up, combined with the Raiders' current salary cap space, combined with the Raiders and the way that they've been handing out contracts this offseason, that's why it's less than $5 million. And if he's willing to do that, I'm willing to listen as well, because I do think he would help out some of these younger corners, and I do think his long length would help out some of the shorter corners like Duke Shelley and David Long Jr. Now, before I head on out of here today, if anybody wants to hang out with Jeremy Chuggs and I, listen up. Saturday, April 15th at 7 p.m. Central Time. That's where we're going to be at the address right here, 2208 Central Drive, Bedford, Texas. There's an event going on, and it's ran by the TNBC Raiders Group down here in Texas. So at the place it's going to be is Central Office Sports Bar. Here's the flyer that they're showing. The event itself actually starts at 4 p.m. and it closes at midnight. Graphk Raider also told us that he's going to be there as well. So if you want to hang out with some Raider folk, hey, man, let's get down. Let's have a good time. I'm always down to have a good time. And speaking of that, this is a little bit up and down low. But Chugs and I, we're going to bring some beers. We're going to bring some boots. We're going to bring some beer bongs, and we're going to challenge some Raider fans to some boot competitions, some beer bong competitions. I hope y'all are ready to get down with us because it's going to be a good time. Also, huge shout-out to Planet Raiders. Huge shout-out to Wasted, my guy, Graphk. I'm glad you guys are starting your own thing over there. You continue to amaze me every single day. If you guys want even more Raiders content, go check those dudes out. They do a lot of great stuff over there. Hopefully y'all like what I had to say about their article. But at the end of the day, Marcus Peters, could he help out the Raiders? The answer to that is yes. But it needs to be at a cheap cost and only if the Raiders don't get their cornerbacks in the 2023 NFL Draft.